What's the best movie for Halloween and why?
In my opinion. 1. The Addams Family, 1991. It's hard to go wrong with The Addams Family, and this particular movie is my favorite for the casting is perfect. Christina Ricci also nails the role of Wednesday like no other actress has. 2. The Conjuring, one of the best films in regards to demonic possession. What makes it all the more scary is that it is based upon true events. These events are fun to research and should be for the extra scare. 3. Underworld. Underworld is one of the best vampire-related movies out there, but it's not scary. It's action-packed. Vampires versus lichens, werewolves, and Kate Beckinsale plays the role of Celine. 4. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 2003, a gory slasher. This film, based very loosely on the real events, is a must-watch for horror films. Even better to once again research the real Ed Gein, who is also called the grandfather of gore. 5. Signs. This movie scared the crap out of me as a child and is one of the best movies in regards to alien visitation. It's just creepy, and if you're into such movies, The Fourth Kind is also great. I'm going to avoid simply considering horror films broadly and stick to specifically Halloween-themed / related / timed films. Halloween, John Carpenter's original, is unmatched as the best. It is simple in its plot, but ingenious in its execution, with terrific performances and one of the most memorable film scores not just of its genre but of film in general. On a very low budget, $320,000 at the time, equivalent to around $1 million today, and avoiding blood in favor of suspense and the fear of what you don't see, this film ranks among the finest horror films of all time, and, I will just go ahead and suggest, one of the best examples of independent low-budget filmmaking as well. Trick or Treat. So few people are aware of this film, despite how awesome it is. A series of creepy tales about Halloween that will surprise, horrify, and delight you. I never heard of this film before seeing it on Netflix, but it's a must-see and you will surely immediately add it to your own best-of list. This one is more graphic at times and in fact might be more disturbing to viewers who are okay with typical stabbing / killing but not prepared for some of the holy crap creepiness of this film's decapitations and other dispatching of victims. But it's seriously great, and has some unexpected little twists at times that might even make you applaud before you realize what you're doing. Added bonus, I found the film and watched it when searching Netflix for films by Michael Dougherty, the writer of X2, X-Men United and Superman Returns, so it's a horror film written and directed by a superhero film writer. The Nightmare Before Christmas. This one cheats, because it's both a Halloween and a Christmas film. But it's among the best of both, with amazing visuals and a soundtrack worth listening to again and again. But it's not lacking story, and is in fact surprisingly tender and thoughtful as well. Comedy horror for adults and kids, it's a great blend that's required viewing for the holidays. Not a fan of scary movies. I love Practical Magic, Beetlejuice, and Casper. CSI and Criminal Minds gets to me. I literally freak out in broad daylight. I would never sleep or go anywhere ever again if I was forced to watch horror movies. I always have to follow scary TV shows with Disney princess movies. Now if kittens or puppies recreated some scary movies, I'm in. Just say no to scary movies. Well, I hate slasher films, so you'll never see one on my lists. I don't get scared from horror movies, so what I find interesting and good may not be your cup of tea, just to let you know. I like gothic horror, so that's what I'm more likely to recommend. 1. The Wicker Man, 1973. This is more psychological horror, but I find it a fun watch. Don't watch the god-awful remake. 2. Fright Night. Both versions, both the original and remake, are fun to watch. The difference is the original is more of a traditional vampire film while the remake is a little more contemporary. 3. Burnt Offerings in 1976. This one is a little obscure. It's on Hulu if you want to watch it. It's an old-fashioned haunted house type movie. 4. Interview with a Vampire, a classic gothic horror film. I enjoy it, one of Anne Rice's better films. 5. Dracula, Prince of Darkness in 1966, the best Hammer horror Dracula film in my opinion. First off, the original Halloween, 1978, is a must-see. This is still the ultimate horror movie. There simply is no comparison. After that, it becomes a bit of a jumble, depending on the mood, but if I were to pick 4 more horror movies for a marathon, I would choose 1. The Thing, 1982. While the special effects are a little dated, though not horribly, the terror of this movie is more related to the story and the acting. These guys did an amazing job of portraying the fear they were experiencing. 2. The Fly, 1986. Very similar to The Thing in the sense that the special effects have held up well, but are a little dated. Still is one of the most cringe-inducing movies ever made, especially when Brundlefly begins digesting the guy's leg. 3. The Ring, 2002. One of the best at inducing dread, and yes, I know you've seen the original, Ringu, and yes, I know it's better. Please don't give me 80 comments about it. Please. 4th, The Blair Witch Project, 1999. I honestly feel sorry for my kids that they don't get to experience the entire Blair Witch phenomenon. The way that this movie was built up, with the websites discussing the history of Blair Township, and the way that the marketing was done, it was so well done, and nobody's duplicated that type of sensation since. Remarkably, it still holds up. The kids were still on absolute edge the entire time they watched it, and they still try to get their friends to watch it. Here are the 5 best Halloween movies you should watch. 1. Scream, 1996. A year after Sydney's mom is murdered, more murders start to occur. She begins to suspect if these murders are related and try to find the killer, as everyone seems to be a suspect. 2. The Haunted Mansion. A couple decides to visit a mansion that Edward Gracie wants to sell. However, they soon discover that the property is haunted by evil spirits. 3. Child's Play. Karen buys a high-tech doll called Chucky for her son Andy on his birthday. However, horrific events follow as the doll reveals its ominous tendencies. 4. Blair Witch. A young man and his friends venture into the Black Hills forest in Maryland to uncover the mystery surrounding his missing sister. Many believe her disappearance 17 years earlier is connected to the legend of the Blair Witch. At first, the group is hopeful, especially when 2 locals act as guides through the dark and winding woods. As the night wears on, a visit from a menacing presence soon makes them realize that the legend is all too real and more sinister than they could have ever imagined. 5. Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity is an American supernatural horror franchise consisting of 8 films and additional media. You don't specify if you are looking for light, medium, or tough. Or if you want something really thought-provoking or kind of fun. I'm limiting my list to English-language films that aren't as well known for the most part. I will start light. Death at Love House, 1976. Kate Jackson in a 70s natural look and always watchable Robert Wagner play a young couple who are writers. They are commissioned to write a novel on a silent screen goddess who died tragically young. Moving into her house for research, the spirit of the beautiful actress consumes them. Can their love survive? Hokey and unbelievable, it is a lot of fun, and if you are a movie buff you must see it. It features cameos from screen stars Sylvia Sidney, John Carradine, Joan Blondell and Dorothy Lamour. It is filmed at the magnificent Harold Lloyd Estate. Burnt Offerings, 1976. An all-star 70s cast highlights this slightly more adult-oriented film. A city family looking for a summer rental is lucky enough to find a moderately priced mansion. The house begins to affect the family, particularly the mother. Like my first suggestion, this film was shot at a beautiful mansion, the breathtaking Dunsmuir House. It boasts a great score, keeping it light but a little scarier. The Others, 2001. Nicole Kidman is a nervous mother troubled by strange servants. You may figure out the big secret before Kidman, but it is well worth a look. Now if you really want to think, here are 2 suggestions. Carnival of Souls, 1962. A church organist survives a car crash and moves away, but is haunted by nightmares, or are they nightmares? A surrealistic score highlights this unusual thriller. Seconds, 1966. More of a dark science fiction than horror, this is a complicated story. An aging businessman who is unsatisfied with his life is killed. But in actuality he is taken to a clinic where he is given treatments to make him young again. Lately there has been some talk thanks to a new television show that Rock Hudson was a bad actor. If you see this film you will never believe that. Some horror films are in modern times more fun than scary. For example, Curse of the Undead, 1959. A dangerous gunslinger in the Old West is actually a vampire. Torture Garden, 1967. Though not a Hammer film, this British-made thriller features Hammer actors Peter Cushing, Michael Ripper, and Barbara Ewing. It stars Jack Palance and Burgess Meredith. There are some creepy moments as carnival goers attend a side show by a mysterious albeit strangely pleasant presenter. Now we move into the genuinely scary. Warning: these are tough films to watch. Abby, 1974. An African-American take on The Exorcist, this film will scare you. Abby featured charismatic actor William Marshall, who is best known for Dracula. Marshall played the character in 2 films and will make you jump. Salem's Lot, 1975. Directed by the great Tobe Hooper, this film pioneered the jump scare that is so popular now. But believe me, Tobe did it better. This film has some terrific effects and some scary vampires. I limited this list for brevity, but other suggestions would be the classic Universal horrors, Hammer Dracula series, The Exorcist, The Conjuring, virtually any teen slasher 80s film. This movie is one of my favorites. The Nightmare Before Christmas, 1993. What can you possibly expect from a movie that was made before CGI, a musical, and one that features stop-motion animation? A dazzling masterpiece, that's what. Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas is a Halloween-Christmas hybrid that is wildly original and infinitely watchable. The cinematography, soundtrack, and yes, the character development are all quite amazing in this timeless holiday classic. The setting of the film is Halloween Town, a bizarre landscape inhabited by a township of impossible-looking creatures who rely on the leadership of Jack Skellington, fresh from yet another Halloween holiday success. The opening sequence sets the tone and is absolutely stunning. While the hobgoblins celebrate, Jack remains detached and unfulfilled. He clearly yearns for bigger and better holidays. Jack, with his ghostly dog Zero, stumbles upon a grove of holiday trees, finds Christmas Town down the rabbit hole, and is forever infatuated with the colorful and intriguing Christmas holiday. He is so impressed by Christmas that he is determined to move in on Sandy Claus and his operation, upgrading his participation in celebrated holidays. As you might suspect, things go horribly wrong as Jack and his hideous crew are ill-prepared to handle a holiday so markedly different from their own Fright Night. The attention to detail in this movie is obvious, and I never felt shortchanged by a single scene. The bizarre characters are a delight to watch, and I really liked the music, especially Ken Page's singing as the Oogie Boogie Man, which was fantastic. Other significant characters included the doe-eyed Sally, who had the hots for Jack, a literally two-faced incompetent politician, and a duck-faced, soup-loving mad scientist who created the ragdoll Sally. The characters were both creepy and endearing. Some of them, such as Santa, were barely recognizable without their gear. Oogie Boogie was probably the most memorable, and his nightmarish lair and props were amazing. Lock, Shock and Barrel were some naughty little kitties, and who could ever forget that bathtub? Jack Skellington really carries the show though as the ever-yearning spiritual leader of Halloween Town. His passion and determination carried him through to attempt a holiday upgrade that never had a chance, but the attempted implementation and results in Christmas Town were hilarious. All of the Christmas toys created by the Skeleton Crew were inspired, but I really liked the snake that ate the Christmas tree the best. I can't think of a single negative thing to write about this wonderful holiday classic. It's original, heartwarming, hilarious, and is the perfect holiday movie that cleverly combines 2 holidays. The single-disc DVD contains some useful bonus materials, including the making of A Nightmare Before Christmas, where over 100 artists worked tirelessly for 3 years to come up with this amazing movie. This segment is comprehensive, detailed, and very interesting. If you haven't seen this creative masterpiece, I highly recommend it for a glimpse at animation before Toy Story and Pixar. Thank you for the question, Amy. My top 4 are easy, the 5th was a toss-up. Here goes. Halloween, this is the first movie where the boogeyman can be as normal looking as your next door neighbor. Don't believe me? Watch when Michael's mask come off. The music, along with the story, is spine-chilling. Halloween 2018, yep, it is a newbie. It picks up 40 years later. All of the previous antics never happened. It had quite a bit of gore, but that's just the sign of the times. JLC is vulnerable and badass. Halloween H20, it ignored the niece storyline, which was horrible, in my opinion. H20 was a worthy reboot for its time, except that resurrection happened after, but... Intermission and spoiler alert. Michael Myers will never die unless the writers stop writing. It's in the contract. Hopefully, any future sequels do not tumble down the rabbit hole that was the previous franchise. Tyra Banks was a new low. The parody was awful. Trick or Treat, I love this one. It shows what happens when one messes with the rules of Halloween. The trick or treat scene with the guy in a blood-stained shirt is hilarious. The kids go from terrified to baha. The first Saw, number 5, was a real toughie. Even though it isn't a Halloween film, its franchise is released around Halloween. The movie is all about choices. Poor Adam, he didn't learn from his mistakes. The ending was worth it. It's one of the endings that stays with me. Happy Halloween. This is not a fair question, because in reality, there are quite a lot of great films that are perfect for watching on Halloween. Here are a few of my favorites. The Exorcist. A true classic that is still shocking today. The first time I saw it was in my early teens, and it scared the hell out of me. It still scares me, though there are some parts that are melodramatic to the point of ridiculousness, such as the scene where the priests chant, "The power of Christ compels you." Frankenstein/Bride of Frankenstein. It just isn't Halloween without watching a black and white horror film from the 1930s. Although they aren't really as scary as they are moody, Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein are two of my perennial faves, and I watch them every year without fail. Halloween, 1978. Just a few weeks ago, I saw a restored version of this movie at the theater. I am pleased to say that it still holds up very well. I have always preferred Michael Myers to Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger. He's less ridiculous in comparison to the other two, which makes him a lot scarier in my book. Return of the Living Dead. Another movie that is required viewing at my house around Halloween, ever since I was 13. It's a parody of zombie films, with a really on-the-nose, yet kick-ass soundtrack. Somehow, it's a lot better than the movies that inspired it. Yet it doesn't take itself too seriously. My favorite line is, "Send more paramedics." You have to see it to know what I'm talking about. The Nightmare Before Christmas. I know you enjoy Halloween, but do you like Christmas too? How about a movie that features both holidays? Back in the day, this was probably the most popular movie among teenagers. In fact, you couldn't go into a Spencer's store at the mall without seeing something on sale related to this movie. It's a classic that is sure to continue to stand the test of time, much like The Wizard of Oz. There you have it, my favorite Halloween films. What are some of yours? The Blair Witch Project, 1999. Because. Warning: potential spoilers ahead, you've been warned. 1. It's set around Halloween. Yes, it came out in theaters in the summer. But the atmosphere, ambience, and look of this film are best enjoyed when it's getting cold outside, and the leaves are falling off the trees. Also, the fact that the movie's set during the Halloween season just fits. Would you watch a Christmas movie set in March? No? Same thing. 2. Witches are the perfect Halloween monster. Yes, there are great horror movies for Halloween that focus on vampires, zombies, werewolves, serial killers, etc. But Halloween derives from the Celtic holiday of Samhain, when Celts believed the border between the real world and spirit world was Kleenex thin. Witches' work deals with crossing that border. Witches are to Halloween as Santa is to Christmas, and Blair Witch is Halloween's answer to Miracle on 34th Street. 3. It's terrifying. This is where the haters out there object that TBWP wasn't that scary. To that I say, this is my answer, write your own. A better rejoinder is, Blair Witch Project is scary because the fear's left up to your imagination. The most you see of the witch is a few words. A crazy woman says that she saw a woman whose body was covered in horse fur, and there's an offhand reference to a woman who never touched the ground. Not enough to get a handle on what you're dealing with, just enough to make you nope out of the situation. You never see the witch, or do you? One possible interpretation is that Josh is the one who kills Mike and Heather. Now, you might object that, say, this is scarier. The above is the old McFarlane Toys action figure of the witch. Two of them, actually, with the second version's head in that little circle. But here's the thing, stare at this long enough, and it ceases to be scary. Stare at anything long enough, and it stops being scary. No matter how frightening a monster is, if you print out a pic and stick it over your toilet and stare at it, every day, it will lose its power to scare. But if you never see something, and your imagination's always working overtime to think what it might look like, there's no way to beat that fear, because the human imagination doesn't stop. It's terror checkmate. 4. The possibility of supernatural shenanigans. Again, the movie itself is very oblique about what happens. The mythology surrounding the film, however, suggests that there's abnormal stuff going on. When the kids' footage is found, it's buried in the foundations of a colonial-era house. That's weird. That's mess with your reality weird, like those recordings of supposedly possessed people bending, levitating and talking in voices several octaves below their range. Again, Halloween's all about that border between the normal and the not-so-normal breaking down. To really get the Halloween spirit, you've got to at least wander into the realm of the unbelievable. Even Michael Myers partakes of this a little, given his near immortality. 5. At least in America, there's a genuine connection to the history of the creepy, paranormal, and monstrous. The Salem witch trials, the Bell Witch incident, the Boo Hag of Appalachian folklore, American history has no shortage of scary supernatural feminine figures. Now the reality behind these, fundamentalism, hysteria, a less than positive view of women, and in the case of the Bell Witch, who on earth knows, are sobering at best. But that's why movies like Blair Witch are, I'd argue, so great. They let us indirectly control things that are tragic or unfortunate or scary. Ghost stories and monster tales are metaphorical versions of the trap from Ghostbusters. They let us capture what's scary and store it in a contained place. 6. It's one of the most successful found footage movies. Even if you hate the found footage genre, Blair Witch conveys fear as well as any found footage movie. Wreck might be a slicker film, and Last Broadcast might be smarter, but the actors in those aren't as genuinely scared or disturbed as those in Blair Witch. The actors filming the movie were acting, sure, but they weren't always entirely sure what was going to happen. It makes their reactions, to me at least, more realistic. It's like method acting to the nth degree. Add to that the fact that wandering around in the complete dark is scary in itself, and you get why the urgency in the actors' voices is so immediate. 7. The interpersonal dynamics are all too believable. The Blair Witch Project is about a class's group project, that most horrifying and horrible of assignments. Group projects are miserable. End of story. They're horrible for good students, who are let down by the crap students who don't do their work. They're miserable for teachers, who know the end result will be some of the kids working, and some of the kids slacking. They're miserable for both groups combined, because group projects inevitably mean few days of sharing those projects, and you know they're going to be bad, and that means skull-numbingly dull presentations where you have to watch, I don't know, someone's execrable rap musical about Daisy and Jay's relationship in The Great Gatsby. Every group project is a version of Sartre's No Exit, in microcosm, hell is other people. Blair Witch Project gets this. Even if you don't buy into supernatural stuff, watching the already tenuous interpersonal dynamics between the three protagonists collapse is scary enough. It's a reminder that the social rules that keep people from throwing punches at each other are every bit as tenuous as the border between the real and supernatural on Halloween. If you've ever seen footage of a riot or read Lord of the Flies, you understand how truly terrifying that sort of thing is. Viewed this way, the scariest scene in Blair Witch might be the one where Josh turns the camera on Heather and psychologically torments her.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future also. Don't forget to like and subscribe to you never miss a video.